I'm Alex from Metabase, and in this video, I want to show you how to create field filters, which are smart data-aware filters for your SQL questions. For example, here's a SQL question with a filter for a category field. It gives me a nice drop-down and only lists the values of product categories that actually exist in my table. Or I have this one for date, and it gives me some user-friendly options to restrict my date range. So these are both field filters. This is also, by the way, the type of filter that you need if you want to be able to wire up your SQL question to dashboard filters, but I'll show you that in the next video. If you create a question in our graphical query builder, these kind of filters come for free. But if you have a SQL question, I have one right here, just counting the number of products created every week. And by the way, I'm using Metabase sample database for this. It comes with every Metabase instance, so you can follow along if you'd like. If I want to restrict these products by category, I could do something like where category equals to, say, Gizmo, and run the question. But if this chart is on a dashboard somewhere, I don't want my audience to have to go into the question and edit the SQL code every time they want to filter the data. So Metabase gives you special syntax for introducing filters into SQL questions. Instead of just hard-coding category, I'm going to type double curly brackets and something like category filter. This is just the name of the filter. It can be anything. You might have noticed that as soon as I typed these, two things have happened. I have an input field appear above the question. I can type something in it, but it doesn't do anything yet. And I have a variable sidebar appear on the right. If I have a limited set of categories, I don't want my users to just have to type in the name of the category and remember every category that exists. I want that data to come from the category field itself. So this is key. I change the variable type to field filter. Metabase immediately asks me, which field do you want? And I say, products category. This is going to be the source for my dropdown. You see that the input field changed to a drop-down, and I can select Gizmo here, add filter, run the query, and see just the results for gizmos. I could also select more than one category, update filter, run the query, and get the result. Or I could remove all the filters, run the query, and get all of the data for all the categories. Notice that we used a special syntax for the field filter. If you used SQL variables in Metabase before, you might have used something like category equals double curly brackets. This syntax will cause an error when you're using a field filter. That's because to enable this smart data-aware filtering, where I'm pulling the data from an actual field, Metabase actually inserts a subquery into the filter block. So this will then cause a syntax error because it does category equals subquery. So when using a field filter, there is no equality, no nothing, just where and a filter block. Run the query and you get this nice drop-down filter with values from a field. And I can also do this for all kinds of fields. For example, for a date, let me add and say date filter. I see another input field appear, and if I scroll through the variable sidebar, I have another variable appear. Again, I'll change it to field filter and select products created at as a source. I see that my input field changed to a date picker because Metabase read the created at field and realized that it's a date and gave you an appropriate type of filter. But I actually don't really like this type of date filter. My favorite type of filter is what's called a date filter. And in this filter widget type, I can change month and year to a date filter. It's called so generically because it gives you all possible options for filtering dates. Like, for example, you can say relative dates, current, and year, and just get the data for the current year, which is currently 2024. And again, notice that I just have and and then in double curly brackets, a filter block, because that's where Metabase will insert some SQL magic. Last thing I want to show you is the default values. Right now, if I reopen this question, these filters will be cleared and I'll see all the data for all time for all categories. That might not be what I want. Maybe I want to show my users, say, last 3 months by default when they see this question, but then give them the ability to maybe restrict or expand this time period. So I can go into the variables sidebar, and in the default filter, I can select, say, last 3 months. I see that it appears up top here. Let me run this question. Now, if I save it, let's say default values, save this question, and then revisit it, I see that last 3 months appears there by default. All right. So field filters let you add filters to your SQL questions, and they're connected to a field in your table. That means they know what the data type is, so they can give an appropriate type of filter widget, and they're aware of what the values are in the field, so they can give you something like a drop-down of values to choose from. There are some limitations for field filters. They don't work with all data types. They work with category and date, but not every type in Metabase. And they don't work with table aliases, so make sure to check out our docs to read about those limitations. And like I said before, this is exactly the type of filter that you need if you want to include your SQL question on a dashboard with a filter, which I'll tell you about in the next video.